Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dugout Daily. I'm Charlie, and I'm joined by Bernard again. How are you, mate?
I'm fine, mate. A little bit late today, but I'm fine. My apologies. It's all my fault.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. We'll get straight to it then. Last night, City
I think
won.
Simeone's tactics sent me to sleep, mate. That was a problem. I think Simeone. I'm still recovering from those tactics last night. I think.
Yeah. Well, it was very, very boring from Atleti. Let's just say that. So it was 1-0 with the goal scored by Kevin De Bruyne, and a 1-0 lead to take to Madrid. What was your thoughts on the game, Bernard?
I was happy with the 1-0, mate. I mean, it could have easily ended 0-0, couldn't it? Which I still would have been confident, even at 0-0, that we could go there and get something. But I was just so happy we got the one goal because I think we can certainly replicate that over there. There's going to be even more, let's say, non-football from there over at their place, of course there is. But he plays to his strengths. I mean, I'm not going to criticise Simeone. He's got some good players there. Unfortunately, they're obviously following the manager's rules, and they're playing to the strengths. And his strength is he believes to keep things tight and nick it and bore people to death. And that's what usually works for him, unless he plays a really good team who can find a way through it. Fortunately, we did just the once, but that was enough, I think, to give us the edge overall.
Yeah. So our team looked like this. It was 4-3-3 as usual, with Ederson in goal, a back four of Cancelo, Stones, Laporte, and Ake, with Rodri, De Bruyne, and Gundogan in the middle. Bernardo Silva was in the false nine, with Mahrez and Sterling on the wings. What were your thoughts on the City team, Bernard?
Yeah, it's interesting. It all hinged on Stones, didn't it? Because obviously a few weeks ago he was practicing with Stones at right back, wasn't he? With Walker being missing, and obviously as soon as I saw Stones back in it, and obviously Cancelo, I thought that's what he was going to do again, but it didn't really turn out like that. But obviously it all hinged on Stones being fit. If Stones was fit, then I expected him to play anyway in whatever position they're at along the back four. I perhaps didn't expect Ake to be there if Stones was playing, but it was nice to see because I think we've said before he's not let us down at any stage recently. And the other thing was you could sort of toss a coin for Foden or Sterling, depending on who was perhaps playing better in training, who was doing the best in training and stuff like that. Because either of those, I would have thought were playing. I plumped for Foden, obviously, but I certainly wasn't surprised by Sterling starting. And again, with the constraints of the squad we had, the starting 11 seemed okay, and even the subs bench worked as well. But we'll get onto that later on.
Yeah. Big up Jordan in the chat as well. The Atletico Madrid team on paper was 5-3-2. It definitely wasn't that on the pitch. With Oblak in goal, Savic, of course, former City man, Felipe and Reinildo as the back three, with Visalcio and Lodi as the wing backs, Llorente, Koke and Kondogbia in the middle, with Griezmann and João Felix as the two strikers. Put that in quotation marks, of course. Thoughts on the Atletico Madrid team, Bernard?
Yeah, he just didn't want to mix it, mate, did he? He just didn't want to have a go, which is his right. He's the manager, and at the end of the day, it made it an interesting game. Might have made it a little bit boring, but it was up to the better team to try and break them down, wasn't it? And we didn't break them down that much, but fortunately, we had one little bit of magic late in the game that, as I said, give us that edge. But yeah, it's disappointing. He's got some okay to good players there, and he didn't. We'll talk obviously about the two guys up front who were up front and about what they did. But I mean, Felix and Griezmann, to be honest with you, it's good job they didn't play an attacking role because they looked pretty well, I think. Yeah. But I think perhaps Simeone's his tactics are sort of diminishing their quality as well. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think a guy said it on the radio last night. He doesn't understand why João Felix moved to Atletico Madrid, and I agree with him. To be honest, it's wasted.
Well, Atletico Madrid perhaps a few seasons ago, yeah, but not this Atletico Madrid. I said it in my thing. I like Atletico Madrid. I've liked them over the years because of they played some good football. But with this guy in charge, I'm sorry, they've just become horrible to watch most times, and that is the thing. But Atletico Madrid, of the team that Aguero played for and all that sort of thing, go back a few years, it was a totally different thing. So whether the Atletico fans are happy with it as well, I'm not too sure. Are they happy with this? I absolutely not. Obviously, they'll be happy winning the league last season. It sort of worked, didn't it? But I'm sure they're a bit more despondent this season.
Yeah. We've not got as many stats tonight, but we've still got a few. 79% possession to 21%, 15 shots to none, 2 shots on target to none, and 9 corners to none as well. It was just defence against attack all game, really, weren't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a worrying stat, though, isn't it, mate? The 2 shots on target. I think these stats should include what's blocked as well. I mean, if something's blocked, it was either on target or it wasn't. I mean, surely we can do these stats. I don't know. I mean, the stats I use is exactly like yours, where it doesn't show blockages. But for me, if something's blocked, it's still, if it's on target, it's on target. It just gets blocked. But that looks pretty pathetic. 2 on target from 15 shots. It doesn't look very good at all. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. But as you probably know yourself, I don't think many stats do it like that. They don't show it. But for me, I assume when they do these stats, you have guys watching certain players, certain things, and it'd be easy to go back and check it, wouldn't it? It's not hard work. You could probably go and watch the City channel do it if you had the time. How many of those blocks were actually on target before they got blocked? So, but it didn't look good on the face of it. But it did overall. I thought we didn't make the most of the sort of little mini half chances, but they were very few and far between. So even to get 15 shots, I suppose, was quite an accomplishment on last night.
Yeah, and the attack momentum, I actually couldn't believe what I was seeing when I was looking for this last night. This is how it looked. Atletico Madrid with 2 of the tiniest periods you'll ever see in the second half there. What was your thought? Do you think that fairly represents the game, Bernard?
Yeah, I mean, that sums it up, mate, doesn't it? I mean, no shots on target. I mean, you can't have any shots on target if you have 0 shots, can you? So that, if they're happy with that, I know his players are defending the manager. Of course they are. They've got to defend the manager, aren't they? What else are they got to do? Slag him off and get sacked or put in the under-23s? I mean, but they can't be happy. They can't be happy with those tactics. And as I said, even the fans, I mean, I don't know how many were there last night, a couple of thousand. I don't know. They didn't have the bottom tier, did they? So I don't know whether that's because they wouldn't have sold enough. I don't know, but you may know better than me. But the fans can't be happy with that. It is wrong. We've seen some negative football from English Premier League teams this season, but nothing to compare with what we saw last night.
Yeah, definitely not. Some other stats and facts then, before we get onto the players. The first half attacks, City had 52 compared to Atletico Madrid's 1 in the first half. And Laporte and Stones completed more passes combined than the entire Atletico Madrid team in the first half. Which is crazy, to be honest. We'll get on with the players then, starting with the keeper, of course, Ederson. His stats look like this: 22 touches, 100% accurate passes, 5 out of 5 accurate long balls as well. Thoughts on Ederson's performance, Bernard?
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed he got himself booked at the end, which was needless. You don't need to. All right, it's not going to be a big problem with the keeper. He's not going to run up enough yellow cards to end up getting suspended or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, we've got to be calm, haven't we? And this is obviously we're going to have to be calm in a week's time over at their place. We're going to have to be far, and we can't do silly little things like that. We'll talk about Jesus later. Had the same problem when he came on. You can't really do it. So I was a bit disappointed, but let's face it, he did. I think he had one little collection to do, but I think it was offside anyway, from what I remember. He sort of shot across the goal, and we know he holds them. He usually holds those sort of things that are flashed across the face of the goal, so that's okay. And sort of with his feet, he was fine, but but what can you say? What can you say about your keeper when you've got no shots on you? There's not much you can say, really. But I was disappointed that he got himself booked.
Yeah. Right back then was João Cancelo. Two 2 interceptions, 2 tackles. He was dribbled past twice. 7 out of 9 ground duels were won. 2 out of 3 aerial duels were won. 14 times he lost possession. He was fouled once, 1 offside, 94 touches, 88% accurate passes, 1 key pass, 1 out of 5 accurate crosses, 1 out of 2 accurate long balls, 1 shot blocked, and 4 out of 4 successful dribble attempts. Thoughts on Cancelo's performance, Bernard?
Well, he didn't have to do much defensively, and let's be honest, better midfielders than him on the pitch last night couldn't find ways of getting in and behind Atletico for 99% of that game. So I can't really blame him. He did his best, but if our established guys like Gundo and Bernardo are not sort of finding little neat balls through or finding little spaces, we're not going to expect to Cancelo, because even though we trust him as now a more left midfielder, if you like, rather than a defender, he's not as good as those guys. He isn't a midfielder, so he's never. If they can't do it, how do we expect him to do it? So yeah, he was. His final delivery wasn't quite right, but he wasn't alone in that, was he?
No, definitely not. Next up then is John Stones. His stats looks like this. So you've got 1 out of 1 ground duels were won, 2 out of 3 aerial duels were won, 8 times he lost possession, 114 touches, 94% accurate passes, 6 out of 9 accurate long balls, 1 shot off target, and 1 out of 1 successful dribble attempts. Thoughts on John Stones' performance, Bernard?
Yeah, again, not a lot to do. And we know John Stones. I think Pep, or whoever takes over from Pep, he may have the DM in him at some stage, and he likes going forward and likes exploring. So I think it played to his. But again, I think he had a stupid shot that he just wasted. I mean, but it was frustration, I think, because we were just getting so fed up of, there's perhaps no one to find with 10 men behind the ball. So I was a bit fed up with it when he did that shot, which was absolutely, I think it rolls head, as you say, don't you? But apart from that, I thought he played okay. He looked confident. He enjoyed himself bringing the ball forward. Didn't have much to do defensively, but didn't really create anything. If you're going to move forward and come forward, create things. He was just, obviously, as long as he finds other players who are more creative, that's fine by me.
Yeah. And next to him was Emerick Laporte. His stats look like this. 1 clearance, 3 tackles, 3 out of 3 ground duels were won, 2 out of 3 aerial duels were won. He lost possession twice, 107 touches, 98% accurate passes, 3 out of 4 accurate long balls, 2 shots off target as well. Thoughts on Laporte's performance, Bernard?
Yeah, he allowed Stones to get forward more, didn't he? I thought that was his role, and he was far more comfortable playing more on the left-hand side. He was against Burnley. He struggled a bit because obviously he was playing more on the right because of the circumstances. But no, I thought he did his job perfectly well. Yeah, yesterday he was sort of the anchor man to allow Stone to release Stones and perhaps even Aki at times, who seems to be well up the pitch as well and stuff like that. So yeah, he took the responsibility of sort of holding that back line and sort of obviously negated some of his forward thinking, which he does a lot of usually. But no, he did. I thought he did a good job.
Yeah. And he tweeted after the game, tough game, but we found a way, 1 more to go. And at left back was Nathan Ake. His stats looked like this. 4 clearances, 3 interceptions. He was dribbled past once. 1 out of 3 ground duels were won. 4 out of 5 aerial duels were won. 9 times he lost possession. He was fouled once, 108 touches, 91% accurate passes, 1 key pass, 1 out of 4 accurate long balls, and none out of 1 successful dribble attempts. Thoughts on Ake's performance, Bernard?
Yeah, well, they targeted him, didn't they? I think they knew he was a weakness. He was a weakness on paper, and they targeted him. But I think he coped admirably with the pressure he was put under by when they did pressure us, which they did occasionally around that middle of the pitch. And Nathan Ake was the one they went at. That's where they put the balls to try and put pressure on him. I thought he coped admirably with it, and I thought he was one of our. A lot of the players were okay last night, given the team we were playing. But I thought Ake was one of our better players on the night yet again. I think that's probably the second or third time he's played in a game where we've probably said that.
Yeah. And he tweeted after the game, good win tonight, great atmosphere, on to next week. And into the midfield now, first up being Rodri. His stats looked like this. 118 touches, 87% accurate passes, 10 out of 12 accurate long balls, 1 shot blocked, none out of 1 successful dribble attempts, 3 out of 7 ground duels were won, 2 out of 2 aerial duels were won, 16 times he lost possession, 2 fouls, he was fouled once, 1 clearance, 2 interceptions and 2 tackles. Thoughts on Rodri's performance, Bernard?
I thought it was a bit untidy at times, but I think it's not the sort of team he'd like to play. I don't think it sort of works. So he perhaps needs to be involved a little bit more than he should do. But when he was involved, he was misplacing stuff and a little bit out of position at times. So not his greatest game. I won't say he had a bad game. I just thought he struggled, as most of our lads did last night, with the tactics and getting to grip with that game of football, if we can call it football. And I think Rodri suffered more than most.
Yeah. Next up then is the goal scorer, Kevin De Bruyne. His stats look like this. Of course, scored the goal, 68 touches, 76% accurate passes, 3 key passes, none out of 9 accurate crosses, 2 out of 3 accurate long balls, 2 shots on target, 1 shot off target, 2 shots blocked, none out of 3 successful dribble attempts, 1 out of 8 ground duels were won, none out of 1 aerial duels were won. 28 times he lost possession, 2 fouls and 1 tackle as well. Thoughts on De Bruyne's performance, Bernard?
Of the starting 11, mate, I thought he was head and shoulders above everyone else last night. There was no lack of effort all over the pitch, but he was just... And I think I said on my thing, I don't know how many games we've got left this season, 13, 14, 15, whatever it amounts to if we progress in the competitions. He is the key man this season more than ever. I won't say we're a one-man team, but at this point in time, he's the only one who seems to have that little bit extra to provide something for us. And I do worry because we know he has been a bit injury prone. And I think if KDB isn't there for the next, at least most of those games, allowing for the fact some might be dead rubbers, or we might be able to relax in a couple. I don't think we'll win anything without Kevin this season. I think Kevin at this point in time is the crutch upon which City are playing, and I think we can win things as long as Kevin's playing. But if something happens, mate, I'm a bit worried because he's the only one who looks as though he could do something a little bit special, and that's even allowing for players like Bernardo who've had great seasons. Don't get me wrong, but I think Kay's just the outstanding guy at the moment, and everything has to be through him. So fingers crossed we can keep him fit and well to the end of the season. If we don't, I think we'll be successful if we can on one, or we might pick up 1 or 2 trophies. If we don't, I don't think we'll pick up any.
No. He tweeted after the game, let's finish it off next week. Some stats on De Bruyne. He's been named man of the match in 58% of Champions League matches he's played for City, excluding playoff games. He said after the game on Atletico's setup, very hard, almost 5 at the back and 5 in midfield, very hard to find space. I'd recommend to everyone who says something to us about this game to go and try it in the training pitch. And he also said, today was the first time I saw a 5-5-0 formation. They had no forwards. So he's taking the mick a bit there. Next up is Ilkay Gundogan. His stats looked like this. So we had 40 touches, 89% accurate passes, 1 key pass, 1 out of 1 accurate long balls, 1 shot off target, 1 shot blocked, none out of 2 ground duels were won. 4 times he lost possession, 1 foul, and he was dribbled past once as well. Thoughts on Gundogan's performance, Bernard?
Yeah, again, like Rodri, I think the way he play, his style of play just wasn't suited to to how Atletico played their game. Just a little touch on that, back to that KDB thing. I think the thing with Atletico now is that they could, they might use this. I mean, they're getting a lot of criticism. They might use this because I'm sure the best. I'm sure they can play better than that. Simeone can play better tactics than that if he wants to. So I think they'll get that. All this criticism will galvanise them for next week. So I'm hoping that's why I hope we keep ourselves calm and controlled and actually do the business. But yeah, Gundogan himself, he just didn't play to his strengths. I mean, this is it. And that's where perhaps Atletico's tactics work, because obviously so many of our players just couldn't do what they would normally be able to do, and Gundogan was a prime example of that. He couldn't get into those forward positions that he likes to get into. So yeah, it works. And again, nothing against Gundogan, but he didn't have the greatest game. But again, he wasn't allowed to have, which is probably a positive for them, isn't it? At the end of the day, but that's how it works. But no, 100% effort from Gundogan. He just didn't have the ability to do anything with those tactics last night.
No, definitely not. He tweeted after the game, first step done, never easy to play against Atletico. We need to stay focused and determined. So next up is Riyad Mahrez. His stats look like this. One shot off target, 2 out of 2 successful dribble attempts, 53 touches, 84% accurate passes, 2 key passes, 2 out of 6 accurate crosses, none out of 1 accurate long balls, 5 out of 7 ground duels were won, 1 out of 1 aerial duels were won. 10 times he lost possession, 1 foul, he was fouled 3 times and dribbled past once. Thoughts on Mahrez's performance, Bernard?
Well, he usually steps up in some European games, doesn't he? He's one of our key players. But again, last night he looked absolutely bang average. I don't think he offered anything particularly last night, apart from perhaps passing back to another player to have a go at trying to break the ranks of Atletico. But I think that was one of his, I was going to say one of his worst displays. But again, there's a caveat in all these City players, I think, last night of who were playing. And I think, as Kevin De Bruyne said himself there, I haven't seen that quote about you try and do it on the training pitch. I think that's absolutely spot on. And the same way with Mahrez, I'm not going to criticise Mahrez for having a rubbishy game, because that's just how the game was. I wouldn't have minded him a couple little jinks and getting the balls in a bit quicker. Not that we probably would have got anyone on the end of him, it just wasn't that sort of game. But yeah, not a great game, but there are reasons for it, as with all these City players, I think, last night.
Yeah. Next up then is Raheem Sterling. His stats looked like this. 1 shot off target, 3 out of 5 successful dribble attempts, 41 touches, 96% accurate passes, 5 out of 7 ground duels were won, 3 times he lost possession, he was fouled twice as well. Thoughts on Sterling's performance, Bernard?
I thought it was okay. He's got a lot of. I thought it was okay to start the game. I thought it was worrying him. He obviously was getting a lot of physical attention, of course, by that guy who was marking. I can't remember his name now, but I thought he started really well. And I think Sterling tends to, if he has an okay first half, he just sort of fades in the second half and ends up getting dragged off or something. He just I don't know what it is. He can't do 90 minutes these days. And I think he had an okay first half, first 20 minutes, 25 minutes. But yeah, he did fade then. But as I said, he wasn't alone, was he? But I don't think he had as bad a game as a couple of people I've heard say, a couple of journals have said, etc. Even Stuart Brennan in the Evening News wasn't impressed. He gave him a low mark. I think is a little bit unfair. I thought he started okay and then just faded out and didn't really. I think he didn't like the bit of kicking and close attention he was getting. I don't know, which isn't good enough, but he wasn't quite as bad as some of the other people have said, I don't think.
No. He tweeted after the game, solid one at the Etihad, on to the next. And finally, the final starter, anyway, Bernardo Silva. His stats look like this. 3 out of 5 successful dribble attempts, 47 touches, 94% accurate passes, 3 key passes, 1 out of 3 accurate crosses, 3 out of 3 accurate long balls, 3 out of 8 ground duels were won, none out of 1 aerial duels were won. 9 times he lost possession, 1 foul as well. Thoughts on Bernardo's performance, Bernard?
I think he enjoyed the mixing it side of it. I think he loves it. He thrives on that. He does. He loves it. We'll talk about one of the substitutes in a minute who came on, who was one of the masters of shithousery, isn't he? And I think Bernardo is. We know that, and although he's very good at that, and he likes winding teams up, and he wound them up, and they wound him up, and he likes that sort of cut and thrust. And I believe he had a better second. It's very hard from the south, where I am in the south stand, you can't get a good view, and I've not had a chance to look at the game back, but some people said he had quite a good second half as well. I would say from the first half he was mixing it and doing okay, but as for the fact he improved vastly in the second half, I can't really quote on that because I've not had a chance to watch it back. But yeah, he kept going, as I said, but again, no real sort of touches of magic to set anything up. But as I said, he wasn't, again, like I said, for a couple of the midfielders, he certainly wasn't alone in that. It's only KDB who actually managed to produce a bit of magic with another guy who came on late in the game, which we're going to talk about in a second.
Yeah. Next up is Jack Grealish, who I do believe you was talking about there, the master of shithousery. 20 touches, 80% accurate passes, 1 out of 1 successful dribble attempts, 6 out of 7 ground duels were won. 4 times he lost possession, 1 foul. He was fouled 5 times in 22 minutes, and 1 interception as well. Thoughts on Grealish's performance, Bernard?
Yeah, I think he probably enjoyed that cameo. Whether he'll get a start over at their place, I doubt it. But I think he loved it. I think he enjoyed that little cameo he had in it. As I said, he can give and take it. He's used to getting fouled, but he's, I saw one of the guys playing with his hair and all this sort of thing, and just laughing at him and saying things back. And obviously, some things he covered his mouth, other things he didn't, depending on what he was saying to these guys. Perfect for me. I thought it was an excellent substitute. All 3 substitutes were, well, 2 of them were excellent. The other one was we'll talk about him. But great. I thought he was great. For the time he was on the pitch. Wouldn't mind seeing a bit more of him last night. But say that more off the ball stuff than on the ball. But he did okay.
Yeah. Next up is Actually, we got a tweet here from Grealish. Good win. Good performance. So next up, Gabriel Jesus. His stats looks like this: 7 touches, 75% accurate passes, 1 out of 2 aerial duels were won, and he lost possession twice. Thoughts on Jesus' performance, Bernard?
He's just an idiot, absolute idiot. He misses the next game now because he got himself a needless yellow card. There's no need for that yellow card. And he's the sort of player that you can bring, say if you're winning a game, it's a close game, you can come on and sort of wear other teams out and annoy other teams. And to get himself booked and missed the second leg of this, or because I doubt he would have started the second leg, but he is a guy you can bring on at a certain time with fresh legs that can cause a lot of bother, and it really annoyed me, and that's why I'm not overly impressed at the way. I'm sure Pep isn't. I'm sure Pep's not impressed either, the way he got himself booked in the same way. All right, it wasn't as bad as the Walker incident, of course it wasn't, but it's just needless, just a bit of, again, when he's not a young lad now. He's got lots of experience in the same way as Walker. They shouldn't be getting them, and Edison. They shouldn't be getting themselves into that stupid position to get a booking that late in the game.
No, definitely not. And as you mentioned there, Gabriel Jesus is now suspended for the second leg after an 84th minute yellow card. So next up is some people call him the stop put Iniesta, Phil Foden. His stats look like this. Of course, he got the assist, 16 touches, 77% accurate passes, 1 key pass, none out of 1 accurate crosses, 1 big chance created, 1 shot block, 1 out of 1 successful dribble attempts, 1 out of 1 ground duels were won, 4 times he lost possession as well. Thoughts on Foden's performance, Bernard?
Yeah, super sub. We used to have the super subs in the old days, didn't we? He found that just that little bit of magic to find KDB for the goal, and that's what we needed all the match really. And to say KDB can't supply and do it at the same time. If he assists someone, they have to do it. So it was just great to see Phil Foden come on, not do fantastic things, but just that one little bit of quality, and that's all it took, and a bit of quality for KDB to finish it as well. It wasn't easy by any means. Other players would have probably fluffed it, or the goalie would have saved it. So, no, all credit to Phil Foden. He took advantage of coming on late, and as I say, the three substitutions were well made in this instance, and he didn't let us down. You need a little bit of something special against that sort of opposition. And fortunately, Phil produced it. Shame we perhaps couldn't have produced one or two more, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. We'll take what we've got. So no, I thought he was excellent.
Yeah. And a stat on Foden, he's now been directly involved in 20 plus goals for a second successive season, 11 goals and 9 assists now in all competitions. So we'll move on to the manager then, Pep Guardiola. Do you think he got it right last night?
Yeah, absolutely. He was a little bit later with his subs than he normally does, and it sort of pours water on when he hasn't made these substitutions, i.e. the game, was it Palace game, where he didn't make any substitutions. But because I thought considering the tactics Atletico were playing, City were playing okay. We were doing the best we could, but all of a sudden, and obviously that was the same thing against Palace. We weren't scoring, but we were doing the best we could. So I'd like to wonder why he doesn't do it in certain games. And last night it worked. I mean, and it just changed it up, and that's what you got to do. You bring three players on like that, and it changed the dynamic of it. And obviously, it gives Atletico players who got used to the other players different things to worry about, and it worked because obviously we got the goal within a couple of minutes from one of the subs assisting KDB. So spot on. I thought his starting 11 was pretty much spot on. Tactically, I think it was pretty much spot on. We couldn't do much else against that team, and I think he I think Simeone was a little bit surprised, and that's what we want. I think he said it himself, didn't he? Surprised Foden didn't start this game, so great if he sort of does these things and confuses in a good way the opposition manager. Obviously if he's not saying like Tuchel saying I was surprised we didn't have a DM playing. I mean that's a totally different way of doing a surprising an opposition manager in a bad way, but obviously he did it in a good way this time. And yeah, I can't no complaints about Pep last night. He sort of did it right tactically, and I don't think he could have done much more as a manager.
No, definitely not. A few Pep quotes then. He's referred to Atletico Madrid's formation as 5-5, as De Bruyne did earlier on as well. On his subs against Atletico Madrid, he says these guys were playing well, but we know with Gabriel and Phil, they have a special energy, and Jack the quality to keep and play the ball. He also said on his subs today the manager was so clever, so bigging up himself there. And on Jack Grealish being targeted, he said we have to control our emotions and do what we have to do in Madrid. There will be a referee in an incredible stadium, a good environment. He also said on De Bruyne, he's the best moment of the season right now. He's sharp, he's quick, positive, and his influence now again is massive. And he made an exceptional goal with his combination with Phil Foden. And finally, he said we played an incredible side, which is difficult to face. We had chances to score, especially a second and third. We had to be focused with what we do, and it's not easy to face this team. We will go there to try and score a goal and win the game. So next up, Atletico Madrid. How do you think they played, Bernard?
Well, they can play better. I think they can play better than that. It nearly worked. It nearly worked for them, and that was the whole idea. I think they'll be reasonably happy with winning, with only losing 1-0. I think they'll be happy with that. In the same way, I'm happy that City have won 1-0. So I don't think they'll be too despondent. It didn't quite work the plan they had, which they did have a plan. Obviously, they had a plan. That's for sure. Whether it's 5-5, but. As I say, I can't believe at their place they're going to be a bit more expansive. Of course they are, and they could totally. Simeone could shock us and totally go for it and actually, surprise us and shove everything down Pep's throats, KDB's throats, all this 5-5 stuff, all the journalist quotes, because potentially they could do that. They could do that, but whether they will or not, we'll have to see, won't we? But. Griezmann and say Felix can't be as I said. The chances were few and far between last night. But I remember that was it. Griezmann threw when Gundogan was chasing him. I mean, all the players to chase a player. You want Walker there, don't you? Someone like that. You don't want Gundogan chasing, and yet Griezmann sort of panicked, and so I think he went out for a throw in the end, if I remember rightly. It was terrible. It was just awful. And Felix had a couple of things where he was pretty poor as well. So I can't believe for the life of me they're going to be that bad at Madrid next week in their home game. And I think it'll be tougher, but I think the fact that they will have to come out a little bit more, as I say, as long as we've got a strong team out after the Liverpool game, we're quite capable of nicking another 1-0 or even better, and we certainly won't play for the draw because that's not how Pep does things. And I don't think you can. If we were 2 or 3-0 up, we might be a bit, but when you're only 1-0 up, they're going to be fully at it, I think, next week. And as he said there, people like Grealish, if it were, obviously I don't think he'll start the game, but if he did, you have to keep the emotions intact, certainly up till the final few minutes if we're winning anyway. So, yeah, it'll be interesting, but and Atletico will do far better next week. I'm absolutely 100% sure of that.
Yeah. Next up, the referee is Van Kovacs. How do you think he did?
Yeah, I was reading he wants to give 11 cards out in a recent Champions League game. So I was surprised there's only 5 last night because he sort of didn't give any for a long time. Then all of a sudden he just went mad. He just went potty and started giving them. So he must have thought, "Oh, I've not carded anyone yet." And he was giving them out unnecessarily, I think, as well, considering the emotions of the game and what was going on the pitch and the off the sort of ball things. And I think he just lacked control. And if you're going to throw that many cards out, 11 in a game like he has done, and 5 last night, he didn't need to give 5 cards if he'd been a bit stronger early on, and he wasn't. He's very weak. I'd dread to think he'd be back in Madrid, which he won't. I don't think he can do the Madrid one as well, can he? It'll be someone else. So I'm glad about that. Whether there are any quality referees out there that will be able to cope in Madrid, I'm not too sure. We'll have to see. But Van Kovacs didn't impress me one iota last night.
Yeah, definitely not. Next up, then, the fans. There was a display last night before the game in the family stand, actually, which surprised me a bit, with Blue Moon and then the Etihad Stadium at the bottom with a Champions League trophy at the top of the banner. Overall, then, the atmosphere, how do you think it was last night?
You were there, Charlie, weren't you, last night? It wasn't great last night. It was actually better against Lisbon, and that was a dead rubber, wasn't it? That we were already 5-0 up. It was actually better in the 0-0. Obviously, they didn't have the bottom tier, so you had City fans right along the bottom of the singing section. But no, it was okay, but it was not like a top. I mean, if it had been Real Madrid or something like that, I'm sure it would have a far better atmosphere. I'm sure people aren't inspired by Atletico Madrid, I don't think, but it's not their fault. And their fans didn't have a drum, did they? They didn't have a drum to sort of get them going. They were okay. I don't know how they were at Old Trafford the other week, whether they're any better there. They were fine. There was, and the stewards moved in because there was City fans below them. And I think they should do this more often. They sort of cleared them from the front of that second tier as well, because obviously they were doing things with the City fans below them. So I'd like to see more of that from the stewards and the police with these European fans. But generally, it was quiet last night. I didn't even lose my voice that much. I was singing, but it was a lot of strangers around me, like there always is for Champions League games. But as I say, it wasn't even anywhere near the Sporting Lisbon atmosphere, which wasn't brilliant, but considering it was a dead rubber, okay crowd. I think I know there was about 1,500 tickets left a couple of days before, but it seemed pretty full to me. Looking at it on set, there might have been some up in the third tier in the corners and stuff like that. But I could, my old eyes, I couldn't see. But at least it looked okay on the telly from seats being full. Wise, which is always important, and I'm glad that blue moon was over the other end as well, because I hate it when it goes over us at our end and I can't see what everybody else going on for 2 or 3 minutes. So all these guys doing these ends when they have the flags waving in front of them all game, I have no idea. I'd have to sit somewhere else if that was going on, or stand somewhere else. I want to watch the match. I don't want stuff in front of me. So not the greatest European night at the Etihad, put it that way.
No. And Atletico Madrid's tactics didn't really inspire the atmosphere.
A bit of both, on and off the pitch. It just wasn't the greatest night. Not the greatest. Certainly had better European nights, even at the Etihad, than that one last night. That's for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of Atletico's tactics, Simeone had a few quotes after the game. He said, "It's nice to see Man City play. We were looking to make a close match, to throw the counter punch. It was a very tactical and well-played match." He also said, "It's a bad result because we lost 1-0 and we wanted to win." And he also said, "I must admit we thought Foden would start. I'd also confess that it's enjoyable to see how City play, but we were both seeking the same thing, winning." Next up, I'm going to ask for your man of the match. Who are you going to give it to?
Well, I think you probably know, mate, don't you? KDB by a mile. I just thought he was the difference between the two sides. Only because for whether it would have happened without Foden coming on the pitch, I'm not 100% sure whether he might produce a little bit of magic, but he was there to put the ball in the net, and that's all we needed. And he was the only one who looked during that game that he was not comfortable, but he's the only one who looked as though he might do something throughout the game. So for me, he was well, and obviously second man of the match is probably Phil Foden. He was only on the pitch 20 minutes, so that says it all, really.
Yeah. Big up Josh and Mojis, both in the chat as well. And finally, it's a huge one on Sunday afternoon. Liverpool at home. How are you feeling for it?
Yeah, I've not heard anything about Diaz, mate. Diaz is, but I mean, based on the fact he wasn't anywhere near that team last night, I doubt he's going to be playing on Sunday. Do you? I mean, I don't know if you know anything else. Is he? No. I assume he's still training. I mean, he was back in training last week, wasn't he? With the team. Yeah. So I've not seen any recent pictures. I've not scoured him anyway to see if Diaz is in them. And I don't think it's a big problem for Diaz coming straight in. It's not as though he needs time to adjust. I don't think Diaz is Diaz. But would you be happy with that same back 5 or 6 on against Liverpool? Not particularly. Not if they go for it. If Liverpool are a bit happy to go for a draw, which I think they might be happy. They might be happy with the draw, even not still stick them a point behind us. I think because of the momentum, they'll be happy with that. I don't know. I'm confident. I'm sort of confident that we can do, and we should have done them at Anfield in the 2-2 draw. We should have beat them there. But the only thing that worries me is that some of our guys who've been perhaps turning it on for some of the season all seem to have sort of dried up a little bit at the moment. Bernardo seems to have dried up. Cancelo's dried up. Gundogan, who he plays, has dried up a little bit. It's only, as I said, it's all on KDB at the moment. And, we need 2 or 3 of our other guys to actually turn up and actually put in a masterful performance for us to get anything against Liverpool. So I am confident, but there's a really big proviso there, depending on, as I say, with that, I worry about if it's that defence, and I worry about, all right, we'll have walkabout, won't we? That's one thing. So at least we'll have a little bit of pace there. So he'd come in, wouldn't he, who would he come in for?
Stones.
Yeah, so he put Walker and Cancelo on the 2 left and right back. Even Cancelo, I mean, would he take it? Would he play Cancelo against Liverpool? Would he want more defensive-minded player? I don't know, because if Liverpool got the 3 front men, I mean, if them 3 front men are playing, it could cause us all sorts of problems. So, Yeah, that's up to Pep to decide, mate. I'm glad he's having to decide that. But if we don't have Diaz, I do think it will be very, very difficult. If we do have Diaz, it might be a lot easier. But either way, if some of our players actually work and turn up, I think we'll have a good chance. Because Liverpool, I believe, haven't been playing that well. So, worst case scenario, a draw. We'll take a draw and be a point ahead, and then win every game till the end of the season. It's our title, so I'll be happy with that. But I'm hoping we'll nick it.
Yeah. That's it for this show then. Just before we wrap it up, where can we find you, mate?
Yeah, just go to Twitter @Bernard_Deneen, and all the links to my YouTube Citizen channel and my film and TV stuff as well are on there. So if you give us a follow, guys, on @Bernard_Deneen, I try and check every couple of days and follow everyone back, and you can get all my stuff on there. Thanks very much, mate.
Yeah. Cheers for coming on again, mate. You can find me here, of course, Dugout Daily on YouTube. Hit the Apex on YouTube as well. Dugout Daily, the football channel. Hit the Apex, the F1 channel. And at MCFC Hibs on Twitter. So, everybody, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you all later. Take care and goodbye for now.